I think most of you were on last week's call. Most of you should probably now have a real good understanding of the admin scale, what it is and how to use it, why you would use it. It's basically to help you put together everything you need to put together to be successful at whatever it is you're trying to be successful at. It's a business tool. You can use it for anything you want. I've used it in all kinds of my businesses, projects, whatever was going on, I would use it to make sure that I didn't miss anything out. And here's why I'm saying this in by observation in dealing with lots of people over the years, and I've been in networking since 1975, and I tried to do this business 13 times without any success. And I started with Amway, and then I did Herbalife, and I did all kinds of these crazy things, and I finally came to the conclusion that network marketing didn't work, and that was in the late 80s, prior to Nikon. And the reason why it didn't work is I didn't understand it completely. I didn't understand enough of what I needed to know to make it work. And I didn't have the right help. I didn't have the right mentors, all of those kind of things. So I got involved with Nikon and then had the success I had. And there were a number of reasons for that success. But today we're in a completely different world. I mean, we are really in a different world. So it's not, when I talk about my story or my stuff, I'm not talking about it from the view of you need to do that. It's you need to understand the mechanic of what was done so that you can take and apply to yourself. And that's what the admin scale is all about. So you got your goal, you got your purpose, okay, your reason, that's the purpose. And usually in all cases, the purpose is a sub goal. You could say, well, I have the purpose to help mankind. Well, great. What happens when you help mankind? You feel good. So the purpose is to feel good helping mankind. I mean, it boils down to that kind of thing because it's for you. Now, the other side of the coin, which is really important to look at, is I got the viewpoint of doing this as a job. In other words, I was stuck legitimately, had a problem, legitimate, had to figure out a solution, legitimate, and looked for a way to solve that problem. And I was unemployable. I didn't like to work for other people. I liked being my own boss. I liked having my own businesses. That was a really nice way to go. So, what I looked at was how could this work for me? And I'm saying this being Nikon. What my circumstances were what my circumstances were. What I understood about those circumstances was that was the reality of my time and me and my circumstances. But I also ran into other people who were in a similar position over time. In the 8 years that I took to build this business, in that time frame, I ran into enough people that were in the same mindset, so to speak, as I was. And what was really interesting about that, and that's life in when it's working properly, is when you're on the same page with somebody, everything works. It's when you're on a different page with people that you have a struggle or a challenge. So goal, purpose, the policy. Policy, just to make sure we clarify that, is simply just the rules. What works, what doesn't work, not the hearsay, not the myths, but actually data that works because again, you want to use things that work. You don't want to use things that don't work because when you use things that don't work, then you don't get what you want, and that's no fun. That's no fun at all. And then once you got that, the overall plan is you're going to do Nikon and play the best you can at Nikon, and then you get into the actual nitty gritty, the program, and a program by definition is just simply the step by step activities. And what's important for you in that respect is you understand what they are. Not it's not the more you know and understand about it, the easier it is. The more you are experienced in doing it, the easier it becomes. Like doing a three-way, doing making a presentation, whatever, it's like it should be like water off a duck's back. And here's why. There's two phases of activity in this business. Phase one is you're learning everything about it. And then phase two is then helping other people learn what you've learned. Because if you understand the compensation plan, the only way you get paid is when somebody else does something. So the idea is to understand where you have to work, why you have to work, and what results are created as a result of that work. And if you work in the right areas, it works. If you work in the wrong areas, it doesn't work. And that was observed over years and years and years and years and years and monitoring. So then your step-by-step activity, you want to understand it. So when you bring somebody in, you can show them and they're going to come to you because of your confidence in what you know what to do. It's like if you went to a trust attorney for your family and you had a big estate and you wanted to pass it on and you talked to the attorney and he didn't know what to do. Well, would you stay with him? No. You asked him a couple of questions. Well, I'm not quite sure what you should do. Well, then that would tell me, okay, I got to go to the guy that knows what he's doing. So I end up getting what I want. That's the idea. So in the business of what we do as a networking company, number one, we're all distributors. So the next group of people coming in are distributors. Retail customers, a whole different kettle of fish. We're here talking about building a business, and in order to build the business, we want, for the most part, other distributors. However, I have to say, and I don't want to poo-poo this idea, there are some people that are really good at retailing. Now, I've had many good retailers in my business. So again, it was an understanding of who I was, what I could do, what I was willing to do, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to get, who I wanted to work with, all of those kind of things became very important. So the more you know and understand about it, the more you can teach somebody else how to do it. Okay, so then we've got the program, then there's projects. Well, projects are the sidebars things. It's the read the book, is take somebody else's course, is go to a seminar, go to a boss event, go to a convention. What those are the things that are going to help you get a step done in your program. It's real simple. Then there's the orders. See, you're the boss. So you got to get up in the morning and tell yourself what to do. It's that simple. But what's really interesting at the same time, you're going to do that with your downline. An order is a communication that effectively directs an activity. Ralph and Jerry. Jerry's never done network marketing in life, worked in corporate America at an administrative capacity, and she wanted to leave her business, work, be with her husband so they both could do something together while he's building their dream home in this very secluded neighborhood. What I told Jerry, I said, Jerry, you're going to get trained for 2 weeks. That was her first order. You're going to read these books. You're going to watch these events. You're going to come and over to my house. We're going to spend a couple hours every day. And we're going to role play and understand how it works. Now, why would a heck would I want to do that with her? Because I wanted her to know what I knew. So, because I knew how it worked. You see, this is a great exercise. You want to do this to take a gold who does $15,000 a month in volume and give them a CV of 50% of that, so $7,500, and you make 6% of that every month. Multiply that for a year, 10 years, 20 years, and see what the value of that gold distributor is. Do that with platinum, do that with diamond, do that with royal diamond. What I got to see and understand, which gave me the ability to come back and give it to you, was that value. Heck, I can't tell you how many millions I made from distributors, not me, from distributors in my organization, because that's the way it works. Okay. So I gave Jerry the order to go to work and study. Then, okay, now Jerry, we're going to launch your business. Another order. Okay, I want you to set up your house. I want you to have refreshments. I want you to set up your display. And then I want you to make phone calls and invite as many people as you can to a meeting we're going to have on week one, another one on week two, and another one a week later, or 3 weeks in a row. And she followed the order and got the people there. I did the meetings, and then after that, we sat down and did that. So that's what an order is basically it's a direction to do an activity that's known to create a result. Another big thing in this, in the quick review is you got to have your ideal scene. What does it look like? Where are you going? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? And again, network marketing is kind of funny because we're not a physical business. We don't have stores. We don't have locations. Everything's done by the internet, the phone, whatever the case may be. So you can create the picture in writing, and you're going to see a couple tonight. And you did see them in the document that I sent out of, what it looks like as an example. But here I want to tell you, it could be 100 different variations of what we put on that paper. So the exercise you got to do is draw it yourself, taking the idea, draw it out so you see what a gold is, what a platinum is, what a diamond is, whatever. Because again, one of the keys to understanding is the time involved. In other words, it took me 8 years to go from the start to Royal Diamond, but I've now been Royal Diamond for 27 years. So I've been Diamond three times longer than it took, or Royal than it took me to get there. And that's basically a lifetime. And what it did for me and all the, I mean, I can't tell you all the benefits. They're just too many. But it was all built very methodically, very structured. It was based on knowledge, understanding of what to do. Okay. So now you've got a picture of where you want to go. Now you've got to monitor your activities. You got to know what works for you. You got to know what works for you. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, you could make 10 phone calls a day. You could do exercises. You could pray to Allah. You could do whatever your case may be. And at the end of the day, what are the results? So if you do not monitor what you do against your results, then you don't know what you're doing. You have no idea if it's working or not. And just because somebody tells you to go do something doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. And you really want to look at this. I'm not saying don't listen to what other people tell you to do, but if somebody tells you to do something and you do it, then does it do something for you? Based on what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, feeling good's feeling good. You can feel good doing a gazillion people. There's all kinds of people that feel good all day long that aren't involved with Nika. There's all kinds of people that are happy all day long and they're not involved with Nika. So again, what you really have to understand is what do you want from this, and then how do you communicate to somebody else, and then we'll get into that because it's all about communication. And then the bottom line is if we were in the horseshoe business and we made horseshoes for horses, I think the valuable final product would be a horseshoe that horses would wear comfortably and horse owners would buy. Really simple. And everything we do would be related to the horseshoes, wouldn't be related to anything else. And the exchange we get when we produce this horseshoe that everybody likes, they give us money. That money gives us the ability to do what we want to do, pay the bills, live our life, save whatever, travel, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the admin scale. So you want to use it. Now let's get into the next part because this is a key component. And there was a couple of communications this week about this that came in, and I just wanted to cover it. And then I'll send this document out with the tape and once we edit the videotape. So you have the basic outline of strategy, you have your goal, and you know why, and you're ready to go. So that's the bottom line. Now, as you know, the key to our business is communication. And this is what will be discussed in this call tonight. And where does it all start? Well, it starts with you and where you were before you decided to join Nika. In other words, what was your predicament, problem, situation that you wanted to handle or deal with? Now, the key here is that your story is going to validate the Nikan idea as a solution that helps create the idea of a potential workable solution for the person you're speaking with. In this arena that we're in, if you look at it, all of you came into this business because you had a situation going on in your life and you made a decision to join Nikan in an attempt to solve that situation, whatever it was. Whether it's economic, social, that time, consuming time, being involved with a group, and and enjoying that group, building a business, trying to make some money, whatever the case may be. So you looked at it, you made a decision, and so everybody else is exactly like you are. They don't look like you and they don't dress like you, but in the mechanical world of the human being, we're all on the same page. In other words, we if we have a problem, we don't want to have that problem. If we got a thorn in our paw, we want to get rid of the thorn in our paw. If we don't feel good, we want to feel better. All of those things. If we don't feel loved, we want to be loved. If we're lonely, we don't want to be lonely. So therefore, the basis of this business is to find people that are in the same shoe or boat that you're in. And that made it so easy. And then in the previous video, we talked about purpose and defined this as your why, more specifically, the reason for your goal and involvement in the first place. In creating your story, your reason should relate to the person you're speaking with and will create the idea of workability. So in each and every one of my 6 key people, the bottom line was I first just had social chit chat. What are you doing? Who are you? What are you about? What's your life been going on, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what's causing all the problems? Kind of not saying that exactly. We'll get into the specifics later, but I wanted to know what was bugging them. I wanted to know what they needed. So the first line is what did they need or want becomes your mission. Because what happens in this business is you get thrust into it and you try and sell them something that you don't even know if they need or want. And so you then fight the natural resistance of most people. You go into a store, you're looking for a gown for New Year's Eve or a formal event. And the clerk comes up to you and say, "Can I help you?" And say, "Is there anything you need?" And say, "No, I'm just looking." Everybody does that. Everybody does that. If people feel they're trying to be sold something, they put up the brick wall. So rather than put up the brick wall, don't go there. See, we don't sell in this business. No, 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 no. You can't. It's really difficult. You provide a solution, so you got to find out if there's an issue. Like people try to sell waterfalls to people that have no idea how important water is. But if you educated them first how important water is, all the problems, scared the heck out of them, tell them what's in that water and what it could do to them, then selling them a waterfall is, I need that. It changes the whole dimension of what results you get. So, in other words, if the person you're speaking with has an issue to solve and sees what you decided on, this helps strengthen their agreement with this as a potential solution for them. Now, what I learned really early on, and I've talked about this, and I got this from my mentor. He said, "Dave, if you want to build this business, you need people that are in the same boat that you are, that want to make money. Because if you want to make money and I want to make money, then guess what we're going to talk about all day long? How do we make the money? What do we need to do? We're going to collaborate. We're going to scheme." Howard, second guy I brought in the business. I'm going to talk about him later and I'll show you that. Anyway, now remember that to reach your goal using Nikan for the most part, creating a team under you is going to be one of the most important activities you engage in. And this starts by recruiting and sponsoring somebody into your organization. Okay. From there, you can get into their warm market. I said this on the last call. We're a warm market business. So if you've run out of your warm market, and most of you have, you need a warm market to play with. It's like with Ralph and Jerry. I said, you call your people, you get them over here, I'll do the presentation. So you work with your person in their warm market, you build the team, you take that down. They went platinum. They made a couple of $100,000 in 2 years and 2.5 years, and so did I. And then they sailed off in retirement because they got what they wanted. They built their house. They blah, 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 blah. They sold it and made a small fortune and moved on. So people look at things for their reasons, not yours. People do things for their reason, not yours. You have to understand what they want, where they want to go, and you got to show them how to get that with this if it fits. Cinderella, the shoe fits. So you could present, you get, again, that's why you talk to lots of people, et cetera, because you never know. But once you get somebody that says yes, then this is where you really got to get going here. So you engage in a conversation, you find the person you're speaking with has an issue to solve it relates to yours. You go to the information by asking questions, or it simply came out in your conversation. You ask a question, well, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Could you use some extra money? Doesn't really matter the question. What matters is that you communicate and ask questions, because if you don't ask the questions, you're not going to get the answer you want and you won't find the problem. Because people are shy. They don't want to tell you their problems. They're proud. They don't, again, I lived in the home I lived in and when I was at the peak was in this guard gated community in Southern California. The whole area was millions of dollars worth of houses. My neighbor moved in. His name was Michael. He traveled the world. He sold speaker equipment to stadiums all over the world. And he had 2 million miles in his in his American Airlines account. And we started talking. We socialized for another neighbor put us all together to go out for dinner. We socialized, blah, 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 blah. And one day I'm sitting in his house. It was near Christmas time. And I got antlers on, those things you put over your head and you get wear antlers and you look like a reindeer. And we're sitting in his room. We're having a drink at Christmas time. And he says, I'm so tired of all the travel I have to do. Bingo. What was my next question? Well, Michael, maybe you should take a look at what I do. And guess what he said? What do you do? And is that's my license. What do you do? Of course. What do you do? So it gives you the opportunity. So if you don't ask or if you don't get engaged in conversations and if you rush it, you're going to miss everything here. What you really want to find out what's ruining that person's situation in life today or whatever. Sometimes you can observe it. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes, you just have to get in that social conversation. Okay. Otherwise, you probably won't talk about it. But okay. When you hear their issue, which really means listen, then this is where your story kicks in. Ah, that's exactly why I joined Nikon. Let me tell you about my story. Here I was in this I was working with this manufacturing company. We had the distributorship for all of Southern California. We sold this product to gas stations, schools, governments, et cetera, et cetera. And then this company goes broke, can't deliver us the product. Stuck between a rock and a place. I've got a family, I've got a budget, I have to do something. And then this guy calls me and said, Dave, there's this new Japanese company in town selling magnets. I think you should get involved. And I looked at him. I thought, first thing I thought about was refrigerator magnets. Then I thought about the guy that made the pet rock, thought about that. And I thought, well, maybe this is interesting. I tried to get an answer to this story. I phoned some people I knew in Wall Street. Nobody knew about this magnetic technology. And then I saw an article in Life magazine that said that 50% of the population couldn't sleep. And their number one product was a sleep system based on magnetic technology. And I thought, oh my God, this could be exciting. So I did more research, et cetera, and one thing led to another, and I decided to jump in with both feet. Now I'm building this business and I'm looking to expand it, and I think you and I could make a small fortune together. I'd like to sit down and talk to you about that. And every single one of them sat down and talked to me. This then shows the person you're speaking with the validity in your decision, and that if they are truly interested in solving their issue, this should help them move you closer to getting a new partner. And that's really what it works. Now, in my experience, not everyone is cut out to be a distributor or wants to solve their issues like you are doing. However, by constantly pushing out and talking to people and following your plan, those that are will show up. So that's why you're told to see numbers. That's, again, it's kind of like when in the oil and gas industry, you've heard this story. I talked to dial 100 dials a day for 5 days. And out of that, after 2 weeks that's a lot of calls, I'd end up with one sale a week. However, the one sale a week paid the bills. So it didn't matter what I had to do. The thing was I doing enough to create the result? That's where the monitoring of the statistics comes in. So again, you have to do what you have to do. It's understanding the right things to do to get the results that you want to get to and then taking advantage of it. And what's really neat about our business is our structure. And if you don't understand our structure, then you're missing the boat because that's the whole key to this thing is that. So, and here's the other thing. Your story has to be real. And you've heard my story a gazillion times. You've listened to the tape on the first video about building your story. Then you're going to review that again. And also, if you want to build a strong business, then the economic problems works the best. Here's why, because opportunists are looking for opportunity, and they're looking for opportunity because they want to make some money or they've not had success making money or whatever. And you want the people that haven't had the success primarily, they're the best because they're hungry for it. Les Brown, go listen to Les Brown. You want to be hungry because those are the best folks that because they're willing to do and especially if they know what to do. This is very important. So this then is part of the agreement, the aspect of creating the reality between the two of you. From experience, once your prospect recognized that his problem or issue could potentially be handled by using the Nikan solution, then the next part goes into play. Well, what's the next part? How does it work? What do we do? What does it look like? Structure. What has to be done? What are the activities? How is the money made? The plan and the activities. And what will you do to help them? Support and guide. Now, somebody decided they were going to do ads on the internet and social media. And again, I questioned, well, what are you saying on these ads to get people to respond? Because most people that are out looking at ads are looking for employment. They want to get paid for the most part. That's the big problem today is people want to get paid. They're when they find out what we do, sometimes before they look, they jump. And so if you're going to do that kind of thing, then you got to be prepared because again, most people do not understand our business. They only heard, they've heard every family in America has probably done network marketing, so it's not a strange animal, but most people never got the truth and never made it and never made money at it. And most people spent money and lost because they just didn't do what they had to do. So that's what you want to be prepared for in that case. That's why it's a warm market business. Because when you got a warm market, you can sit down and educate them properly without having all the rejection and issues that the cold market brings. Okay. Most of us have a general idea of these ideas that we just talked about, the 5 areas of in life and in other business, but not necessarily with Nika. So somebody calls me up, well, how do you make the money? I mean, happens all the time. Well, there's a number of ways we make the money, but the best way to make the money is to build a team and let me show you how that works. And I draw it out on a piece of paper so that they would have the actual picture. Just like if you went to an architect and said, I want a 3-bedroom home, what does it look like? And he draws you a picture. Or if I was getting a new furnace in the house. Well, what does it look like? He showed me a picture of the furnace. He showed me how it worked. He showed me what it would put out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, these aren't new ideas, guys. This is what business uses all the time. And I've done a gazillion different businesses and had tremendous success here. So I'm trying to pass this on because in network marketing, it kind of gets, oh, you can work in your pajamas and you can sit in your living room and drink tea all day and make a fortune. And I'm just going to say, no, you can't. That's false data. And it drew people in and they signed up, but they didn't stay very long. And what we want to do is get somebody that comes in and stays and builds the business because that's how it works. You make money when somebody else does something, and you want the same group to continue to do something. Just think, if you just imagine, and use your imagination, you had 5 people that were all platinum and all doing 100,000 in points a month. Just take that home, do your homework, figure it out, get excited to see what it out. Now, understand how to build the platinum, which you're going to learn, and you got the first step last week, you'll get the second step today, and we'll keep on until you got it all. Most, if not all, failures come about from not understanding or misunderstanding something about the 5 above points. What are they? How it works? What do you need to do? What does it look like? Structure? What has to be done? Activities? How the money's made? The plan and the activities? And what you will do to help them. Those 5 areas. When they're not understood, people don't do what they're supposed to do. And it makes it awfully difficult. So this is why you wrote in your admin scale and what needs to be learned. You find out that they're interested and want to move forward, then those 5 points need to be explained or demonstrated and really make sure that the agreement becomes stronger at the point of where you get into action. And this is where you can start with ABCs. We had an unfortunate situation the other night on a call where the person was invited to a call that had no idea why he was on the call. Not really. And again, from my experience, again, one of the benefit of one of our calls is to, you know, take a person from a basic understanding to an excited understanding. Your job is to get them to that point. Anyway, we'll cover that in another call when we get into prospecting, which will probably be next week. In the beginning is the decision, and the decision is to be a unique and distributor. From there, everything else can unfold. Pretty basic. In the beginning of anything is the decision. Just think about it. Anything had to start with a decision. And then from there, you learn what to do, and then you go to work. How does it work? Well, here are the many points that you can make. Phase one, learning everything you need to know and then doing the activities so that you know how it works. Phase two, teaching others so they win by helping them do the same thing. And then use examples. Starbucks, McDonald's, the guys your donut shop up in Canada, whatever that, I forget that now. Tim Horton, the Tim Horton donut shops. Anything. It's like the boss and then other people. You're the boss, you're the CEO, you're building a company. Let's say you had a tire company and you were changing tires for cars in your city. You'd have tire changers, you'd have a receptionist, you'd have people in the supply room buying and selling the tires, and you'd have guys taking away the trash, et cetera, et cetera. You'd have somebody cleaning up. You'd have employees that are doing the work. Well, in building this business, your employees are other distributors. It's the same thing. Sponsoring partners and building teams. So here, John, here's the job. What we're going to do is we're going to find people that have a problem, a situation that we're going to help solve. And then you and I are going to help build their teams. That makes sense? Okay, got it. Okay, you ready to go? All right, good. I mean, that's what we do. So you paint the picture, you draw it out, you describe it, you show it. But what happens to most people in this business? Oh, you got to become a distributor and then you never hear from the sponsor again because the sponsor doesn't know what to do. I tell you, I've seen this for 50 years. All right. Like anything else, learn and then do. So you got to learn what it is, then you can do what you need to do. It's really quite simple. When products are bought by consumers and others become distributors and build their businesses. So you learned that there's two valuable final products in Nika. One is a customer on auto ship, and two is a distributor that's building a team and getting what they want. Now, here you could write how much money that they may want as an example. So, how much money would you be interested in making? The person says, well, I need to make an extra $1,500. Then show them what that looks like. You see, reality is not scary. Unreality is scary. So, if you don't show somebody how it works, they don't know how it works, then that becomes scary. When you show them how it works and what you need to do to make it work, then that's easy. You just follow the yellow brick road. And that's all we do. We just talk to people and we look for problems and we present solutions. Just go as fast as you can. But when you've got a warm market to deal with, it's easy. Because the hardest part is to get in front of somebody to talk to them. Not in a warm market. It's easy. Piece of cake. What does it look like? So here you would lay to how much money, you draw out the picture, show the various ways of income. You saw the picture in that example I sent you. That's one example. You got to draw your own. You got to create your own picture. So you got the own, there was Don Faliff, one of the first guys in network marketing, wrote napkin presentations. Go read that. Go find that book, buy it, read it. I would go into restaurants and I'd use sugar packets and salt and pepper shakers to show them how a network marketing organization worked. And they saw it, they got it. You sit in there and say, listen, here you are, John, here we are. Now we're going to find three good people under you. We'll start with one, we'll find that one, and we'll help that guy find his two or three. Then we'll take those three and we'll help that three guys find their guys. I can't tell you how many times I've done this with myself and with other people, and it works every single time without fail. If the person that you bring in wants to solve their problem. That's the main. If they don't, then it's hard. So that's why you got to find somebody that wants to play with you. What has to be done? This could lay it out in a short list. Get trained, create your list, create your story, launch your business. How is the money made? Show them the printed copy of go to the back office, print out a copy of the compensation plan, the written part from qualifying from direct all the way to Royal Diamond, put it on a nice piece of paper, and so that you can explain it. I would put each one on its own page. Put that in your presentation book. So, okay, this is how the money's made. Retail income, rebate income, distributor overrides, leadership bonuses, incentives. And I have a story about each one, and I'd have it laid out, and I'd use examples of how this is made because here's the big bugaboo. Most people don't even understand their own compensation plan. Come on, guys. I mean, this is just the way it is. I mean, this is what you're selling. This is what you're promoting. This is what you're talking to other people. This is why they're going to join you because this is what they want if you ask for it. See, that's the question. If you ask for people that want to make money, then you're going to find people that want to make money. If you don't know how to show them or tell them. Now, here's another thing that just came flash to my mind. Understanding where you make a presentation where you're not distracted is key. So you've got to be aware when you're presenting to somebody, is this the right place to make your presentation? Because you want to do it where you've got control of your conversation. We'll cover that. I just thought about that while I was saying this because I've ran into people on planes and buses, airports, hotels, restaurants, um, and sometimes where I started to talk to them was just not the right place. They were distracted. I've done couples, and I've not had both couples there. I've had kids in the mix. Just you really want to make sure that when you're ready to sit down and go over the nitty-gritty with somebody, you're in an environment that you can control, and there's going to be no distractions. You earn and get paid when somebody underneath you buys a product or when you help a distributor you sponsor build a team and create volume. No other way. No other way. There's no other way you make money in this business except that way. Now, in comparison to retail and wholesale, retail's great if you're good at it and it takes a long time to develop customers. There's a couple of distributors that have a lot of customers over a long period of time, and I wish they were in my organization. I have some that have been in my organization for years that would focus mainly on retail business, and they were great for my group requirements, and they're important. But where I made 99% of my income was when I had distributors underneath me who did their business. And understand what a distributor does. A distributor finds other distributors, finds customers, consumes product for themselves, and consumes product for the business. That's four different ways the product gets distributed with a distributor. Think about it. Finds other distributors, finds customers, consumes product, and uses product in the business. This represents four ways the product gets distributed by a distributor. A consumer buys product, and the best consumer would be somebody on auto ship. But every once in a while, sometimes consumers will refer people. Number five. Now, this is probably the most important point, and that is what will you do to help them build the team? So let's clear the list here. You'll assist them with the meetings, ABCs, their launch strategy, training, anything you can do that will help them get what they want. Show them the value of having a distributor underneath them. Just the exercise we talked about earlier, where, create the value of a platinum, create the value of a diamond. Put that in front of their face and say, listen, Job, if I get you to diamond and you're doing 100,000 points a month and you're making yourself six, seven, $8,000 a month, guess what I'm making? Six, seven, $8,000 a month. So it behooves me. I wrote that. I wrote it right here. So it behooves you to help them, just as it will behoove them to help their people as well. Phase one, you learn everything there is to do. Phase two, you teach others to do the same. I mean, that's it. That's how simple this business is. But most people don't take the time to learn it first. They want to jump into it. They think they gotta, they're going to miss the boat. No, you're not going to miss any boats. You're going to be so much better. I'll give you an example here. I sponsored Howard, and he used to work for me. I knew him. He was a warm market guy. I didn't think he'd do network marketing. He wasn't on my list. My mentor said, put him on your list. Go talk to him. I called him up and I said, Howard, I think I found the goose that laid the golden egg. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, I ran into this Japanese company. They're from, they're into we didn't know about wellness at that time. they're into this. We have a sleep system, and 50%. I just saw an article in Life magazine said 50% of the population is having a hard time sleeping, and it looks really exciting. I think we could make a small fortune. What I'd like to do is have you try this out for a couple of days and tell me what you think. And now I'm a business guy, right? So I'm a businessman. So I had bought product for demo purposes because I could write it off as an expense, and I knew that the product would attract attention. And so I was willing to do that. And then if they bought it, then there would be an exchange and I'd get a new one, et cetera, et cetera. It was an easy process to do. 2 days after he got the product, he calls me up and said, I don't know what you got, Dave, but I'm in. All right. I didn't argue with him. I didn't say, why are you in? He just said, I'm in. He said, I had the best 2 nights sleep I ever had. And I said, great. All right, well, let's get together and let me show you how this works. And he said, okay, fine. I went over to him, and so I sponsored Howard, and I got Howard to understand the business, and then he went and sponsored a guy by the name of John Hopley. John Hopley had experience in doing network marketing in the past, but never had any success with it. But thought that this was a good idea because of the same things that Howard did when. So we sponsored John Hopley. John immediately we did some ABCs, and he got this gal in Arizona in Scottsdale. Her name was Rusty Regador, and Rusty was in the travel business, and she liked to make money. So what did we tell her about how to make money? So she said, well, I got this guy in Hawaii. He could be very good. So we did a long distance ABC, got the guy signed up, and I would fly to Arizona to work with Rusty. Howard wanted to go to Hawaii and work with Ron. We had the government of Hawaii on the product. We had this huge network on every island as a result of what he did. So how did we build this business? I got to Howard, Howard got to John, John got to Rusty, Rusty got to Ron. Ron was the guy that fired everybody up above him. Howard went wide, John went wide, Rusty went wide. I think Howard got to platinum, John got to, what did John get to? Maybe gold. Rusty got to gold, and Ron got to platinum. These are all individuals. They had their own circumstances, but what I want you to see here is the concept. So you bring in a Howard. The first thing you want to do is get underneath him and get him a John. And then you want to keep going until somebody lights up like a light bulb. Now, if you turn this on its side, and these were all wide, again, we learned this from last week, that's competition. Now you got a team. So while I was working with Rusty, Howard was working with Ron, my organization was growing. And this was by the third month. The third month, my income jumped to $6,000 because of this. This was part of about a third of my income came from this group. Okay. Now Ron went to town, so to speak, and built a huge team that elevated Rusty, John, and Howard. This gave Howard a great success story, which allowed him to then build more teams. Okay. The reason I got Howard was because I did this with George the month before. And you saw that schematic in another video. George got Jay, Jay got Al got Moshe, Moshe got this other guy down 6 levels off the bat. 4 of us went silver. Teamwork. See, it's much easier when you have a team. This then gave Howard a great story, etc. So if you want to make this business work and reach the potential that's available, to make this business work and reach the potential that's available, then you want to start and become a professional. And by professional, you want to know Nikan history. You want to know what's going on in our industry. You want to know what's trending in our society regarding our products and technologies. You want to know how the business works. You want to know how to prospect and qualify. You want to know how to give presentations and meetings. You want to demonstrate the product, how to do that. You want to help someone launch their business. You want to help someone build their business, and how to help someone go silver, gold, platinum, diamond, and royal diamond. Help resolve back office issues and provide customer service help. All of this will be learned in time. All of these come about by doing the activities of the business. I knew nothing when I started about Nikan, but I learned everything I had to learn because I jumped in with both feet and did what I had to do. Now, the results you get are going to be the results you're getting are going to be based on yours. So phase one is learning how this business works so that you can make it work. It's like when you first got into a car. You had to learn the brake, you had to learn the gas, you had to learn how to steer it, you had to learn the balance between the two. You had to gently stop the car instead of stop the car and then gently put on the gas instead of taking off like a rocket. There were gradients in how you learned and attacked this business. So same thing here. Okay, in summary, this is a business of doing specific activities that are known to create results. We're a people business. Distributors who are active generate the most results, whatever they're doing. They're active and they're doing something, they're creating volume and they're signing up distributors or they're getting customers, whatever it is, then they generate the most results. So somebody that's not doing something is not going to create the result that you want. The only people who can represent Nikan are distributors. In society, people work and do business to earn a living for the most part. I mean, this is really important. In the most part, that's what people work because they need to make a living to put food on the table, put a roof over their head, take care of their family. There are hundreds of millions of those people in our marketplace. No shortage. The easiest way, though, is warm market. So remember, this is a business and treat it such. And it can be an excellent solution for the right person. Not everybody's suited for this business. Not everybody's going to be a doctor. Not everybody's going to be a lawyer. Not everybody's going to be a politician. Not everybody's going to be, a bus driver. Not everybody's going to drive trucks for an oil company. Not everybody's going to be an explorer. Not everybody's going to be a hunter. You see, it's like anything else. When you know what to do, your activities get results. When you don't know what to do and what you're doing, you don't get what you want. And you got to be honest with yourself about this. And you can't pretend because this is real. This is real life. This is real activity. Nikan will pay you for what you do. So you really want to understand what and how they will pay you and for what. I mean, really important. I mean, that was a struggle I had at the very beginning. Well, how I'm in a pickle. What do I do here? How do I get paid? What is it I have to, oh, I have to have volume. Oh, okay, right. Well, how is volume created? And then I learned that. And then it's, well, man, this guy over here is creating a lot of volume. I'm not involved with him. He's over there. He does that. And I got another guy doing this. This is okay. I get it. I get it. I get it. And understand that if you are doing this to earn an income, then you need others who also want to earn an income. In order to attract these people, you need some basic understanding of how people can earn. And there are always exceptions, guys, always exceptions. Um, I've run into people that have, yeah, there's always an exception to the rule. I'm giving you some basic stuff here. You need to have a plan and in writing, and that's was last week's call an example. Therefore, so does everyone else. I mean, it's so important. Probably one of the most important things in your understanding is what's going on in your community and society in general. And what are the issues and problems that need solutions? Your communication skills are vital and probably one of the most important aspects of your future success. The more you know and understand, the easier it is to share with others and get results. Like any professional, you need to understand the tools you have available and how to use them. And we have traditionally been a warm market business. That doesn't mean that you can't use the cold market as well. The key here is to know what works best in each and to use whatever methods you need to build your business. I used the cold market with the newspaper ad once, got what I needed. I used the warm market, used neighbors, associations, referrals. Now, being organized will allow you to do what needs to be done to become successful. This business takes time to develop and it takes the persistence of activities until there is enough support in your team to continue to move it forward. See, when you build in depth, you create a team so you have many people working in the same direction for you, with you. When you build width, you create each one's a competitor to the other. They're on the same general team, but for your help because you need to help them build. I just don't know anybody that didn't need help. It's so important. Therefore, you need to be organized to pay attention to all at all times. This is your opportunity. You're the boss of your business. It's your benefits that are being created. It's your activity that dictates the activities of others. Leadership is defined as establishing activities so that production will occur. That's what a leader is. Establish activities so the production will go on. You don't establish the activity, no production goes on, you don't get a benefit. I mean, it's pretty simple. The final message is that the more you practice doing any activity, the better you become, provided you're being coached and helped by someone who knows and understands what's going on by its design. Nikan is a team business. Use the team to build yours. Okay, so here's your homework. Your homework will be to write out your story. You can use the ideas from the video mentioned in the project section of the example we did last week. Okay, it's a perfect example. And it gives you the step by step of how you do this. There's other people that have told stories, but I'd like you to deal with somebody that's done stories with this business, not the general stuff. You can go to the general once you got a good handle on it. You can send it to me. I'll help you review it. We'll take a look at it. We can talk about some of those next week. And there's the end of our meeting. I will stop the meeting at this time. Thanks for being on. We'll see you same time, same channel next week, and we'll go on to the next topic. And if you have anything you want to discuss, put it in the Business 101 chat or send me an email at ralphman@earthlink.net.